Shape Cluster Photo Display with Photoshop CC App Release 13, 2017. Step 1. Create a new document. Let's begin by creating a new Photoshop document. Go up to the File menu in the menu bar along the top of the screen and choose New. The new dialog box. Step 2. Add a new blank layer next. We'll add a new layer to hold the various shapes we'll be using to divide up our image. Press and hold the Alt, Win, Option, Mac, key on your keyboard and click on the new layer icon at the bottom of the Layers panel. Step 3. Select New Guide Layout. Let's add some guides to the document to help us create the shapes. To do that, we'll use Photoshop CC's New Guide Layout feature. Go up to the View menu at the top of the screen and choose New Guide Layout. Step 4. Create a 3x3 guide layout. This opens a new guide layout dialog box which lets us easily add rows and columns, gutters, and margins to our document. We'll use it to create a simple 3x3 grid. First, in the Columns section on the left, set the number of columns to 3. Leave the width field empty, so Photoshop will space the columns equally, and set the gutter, the space between the columns, to 20 px. Then, in the Rows section on the right, first click inside the Rows checkbox to enable rows. They're turned off by default, then set the number of rows also to 3. Leave the height field empty to let Photoshop space them out equally, and set the gutter, the space between the rows, to 20 px. We'll use the rectangular marquee tool, along with our guide layout, to draw our shapes. To do that, we need to drag selections around different squares in the 3x3 grid. Start by clicking in the top left corner of the square inches the upper left of the grid. Ignore the margins around the edges of the document, and, with your mouse button held down, drag to the bottom right corner of the square directly below it. Include a gutter between the squares in the selection. Step 7. Fill the selection with black. Let's fill all of the shapes we've selected with black. For that, we'll use Photoshop's Fill command. Go up to the Edit menu at the top of the screen and choose Fill. We're done with the selection outlines and the guides, so let's clear them from the document. To remove the selection outlines, go up to the Select menu at the top of the screen and choose Deselect, or press Ctrl+D, Win, Command+D, Mac, on your keyboard. To remove the guides, go up to the View menu and choose Clear Guides, choosing a Drop Shadow Layer Style. This opens Photoshop's Layer Style dialog box set to the Drop Shadow options in the middle column. I'll set the angle of my shadow to 135 degrees so the light source appears to be in the upper left. Then I'll set both the distance and size values to 10 px. Distance controls how far away the shadow appears from the object, while size controls the hardness of the shadow edges. You may want to experiment with these two values if the size of your document is different from mine. Finally, I'll set the opacity of the shadow to 40%, choosing a Drop Shadow Layer Style. This opens Photoshop's Layer Style dialog box set to the Drop Shadow options in the middle column. I'll set the angle of my shadow to 135 degrees so the light source appears to be in the upper left. Then I'll set both the distance and size values to 10 px. Distance controls how far away the shadow appears from the object, while size controls the hardness of the shadow edges. You may want to experiment with these two values if the size of your document is different from mine. Finally, I'll set the opacity of the shadow to 40%. Save your photo. Like and subscribe.